Alright folks, welcome to Premium Fuel Mag. Today we're going to be working on the Miata. So let's go on outside, take a look and see what we have. First off, I'm just going to let you guys know, last video my camera broke mid-video and I just continued working. I didn't bother trying to fix it. I filled in a little bit of scenes with my cell phone from the last video that you guys just watched, and I just continued working and didn't video any of the stuff that I'm about to show you. But that's alright, because it's boring anyways, and the finished results are much better than the process of what we had going on. Alright, so here it is, guys. So first off, I just want to tell you my goal by the end of this video is to have the car ready to run. It's not going to be necessarily running by the end of the video, but I want to have this thing ready to run by the end of the video. So I'm going to go ahead and recap what we've got so far, and then we're going to do a couple of other things which I'll tell you about in a second. But first of all, last video was real dark. You didn't really get to see my awesome job of making the coolant pipe. I didn't actually show you the other pipe that I made, which is underneath here. I've got 290 degrees on that. It goes across the core support to take coolant back and forth from the back of the car. We finished the alternator bracket, the custom alternator bracket. Little side note, if anything slows me down from getting this car running, it's going to be this guy right here. This is a 3G alternator. I've done a 3G conversion before. It was on a stock Mustang, and this doesn't have what a stock Mustang would have on it, and I'm not 100% sure how to wire this thing just yet, but I will figure it out. So anyways, as you can see, we've got the spark plugs in, we've got the distributor in, we've got everything all piped up, got our custom brackets, got our headers on. One thing I never showed you guys is I actually shortened the little oil outlet down there. I've got my oil pressure sensor on there, and I changed the placement of my main power wire to the front, just because it made more sense to have it on this side because the alternator is on this side. So that's the look under the hood. We have the beginnings of my fuel lines, but those actually don't go to anything right now. So later on in the video, we're going to be attacking the fuel line system and the fuel pump. And around on the inside of the car, as you can see back there, we've got what's essentially my breaker panel. I don't like to use fuses in cars for a lot of things, just because when a fuse blows and you just don't happen to have another fuse on hand, you're kind of without that thing, or you have to improvise or do some other weird stuff. So I've got breakers. So in a situation where a fuse will blow, the breaker just kind of pops and then you can reset it. Or you can use it as an on-off switch. So it's really great. You can see here we've got my wires running down the middle of the center console. There's my 1966 Mustang shift knob. Didn't show you guys the finished product on that just yet, but that's how it sits right now. It may need a little bit of adjusting later, but we'll see. And of course the dashboard is out of the car right now. It's on the roof. So the dashboard fits in here. Speaking of which, we're also working on gauges, which is really exciting for me to be at the point where I'm actually looking at gauge placement for this car. So let's go ahead and look at the gauges. Alright guys, so what we've got here, this little piece here is called the tombstone, and this pretty much goes right in the middle of the center console, just like almost every car has on its dashboard. And I've already got 2 gauges in here, and the really cool thing about this is I didn't use any kind of special mounting hardware or anything. I didn't do any fabrication. The stock Miata vents, once you take this little swivel thingy out of them, it's actually the perfect diameter to put your gauge in there, and you could just slide it in there. It fits real snug. You don't even have to use any kind of adhesive or anything. It just goes in there like it was made to be in there. And as you can see, that looks really cool. So got my gauges there, got the wires hanging down. Going to be working on just making sure all my wiring remains clean and easy to disconnect, the same way I did in the Mustang. The way I have the Mustang, I don't like to wire the dashboard so that you have to cut and rewire things if you have to take the dash out, if you have to do any kind of work in there. I like to have everything connected by plugs. Speaking of which, this is my main control panel we got here, my ignition panel or whatever you want to call it. And I've already wired the car, as you saw, and the wiring on here actually matches everything in the car. And I've got these 2 plugs here. So when this is attached to the tombstone, If I want to take the dash out, all I got to do is pop these plugs loose. Whatever plug situation I come up with these guys, just pop all those plugs loose, snatch the dash out of the car, which will be attached by zip ties because, I don't know, zip ties are great. You cut them and you take them off and then you slap a new one on there. You don't have to worry about sticking a screwdriver into weird places or drilling holes or anything like that. So I like to keep things modular. If I'm putting something together and I'm designing the way that it goes together, I like to keep in mind the person that's going to be working on it, which is me. And how do I want to work on things? Make it as easy as possible. Make things where I can reach them and where it's easy for me to take them apart. So, one problem that I have with this guy is that there's nowhere to mount it on this tombstone. As you can see, we've got this raised edge along the back here, so I can't really glue it or screw it on. These holes that are in here don't line up to anywhere where I can actually screw them in. So what we're going to do is we're going to take advantage of the 3D printer and we're going to print ourselves a bezel for this guy. Alright, there we go. It's all done. So basically I designed this bezel so that it fits right inside the tombstone. It's got this flat portion along the back. That way I can actually glue my switch panel to that, and then I can glue my bezel inside the dash. So this is how it fits right here. That's how it fits right in there like such. And we're going to go ahead and glue that together like that. As you can see, I've got my labels on there right next to my thumb for what those switches do. That way I don't forget, like I do always in the Mustang, because that's not labeled. And those gaps that you see on the left and right, I'll just fill those in later on with something else. It's not a big deal to me. So let's go ahead and get this slapped together. Alright folks, so the job for today is we're going to be working on the fuel lines. We're going to be putting new fuel lines in the car. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to put a new fuel pump. This is your typical Walboro 255 pump. That's going to be plenty of pump to power our stock 302. I've got various AN fittings right here. I've got these special AN fittings which we're going to use to basically convert the stock fuel outlets to 6 AN. And we're going to be running 6 AN lines for feed and return, which is again going to be plenty of line for our stock 302. The next thing we're going to be doing a little bit later on is we're going to cover our wiring inside the car with this nice wire loom that we got here. I have some seat belt anchors. I've got the seat belts mostly in the car except for one belt. We need to make new anchor positions for that, so we're going to get these in there. May not show you all of this stuff on the camera. This is just stuff that I have to do. We've got a fuel filter, which is extremely suspect. I don't really trust it, but this is the best thing I could come up with, and I was being cheap, and I didn't buy what I should have bought. So we'll see if that comes back to bite me in the future. I wouldn't be surprised if it does, but we're going to push forward for now. Also, I've got these cable tie thingamajigs that I'm going to use to secure the fuel lines up. Alright, so I went to go and take the lid off for the fuel pump, and what I found is a very nice animal nest. Something that used to live in here. No idea what it could have been. And these leaves don't match my tree, so this either came from Thomas's house or the place where I got this from. Alright, so this is what's called this actually has the fuel sending unit and pump assembly all attached, which is cool. So this actually tells you your level. That's your fuel sending unit. It's a confusing name. But we've got our fuel pump on here. Alright, so upgrading a fuel pump is usually fairly simple. They're usually about all the same size. Sometimes if you're working with something special or whatever, you'll have a lot bigger fuel pump. But in most cases I've seen, they're all this size. As you can see, the stock pump is a little bit shorter. This pump has been replaced at some point in time, so I have no idea what this is. But whatever it is, it's meant for a Miata. So we're going to go ahead and put the big boy in there. And there's no specific method for this. Just make sure everything is secure. You definitely want to keep your fuel sock, because this is what keeps, first of all, it's your first barrier for any kind of debris that might be in your tank. It also allows you to keep having a constant fuel flow as you go around corners and as you get low, because the fuel actually absorbs in here and goes into your pump. Alright, so here are the special fuel line adapters that I purchased in order to convert this over to 6 AN or any AN that you want. Basically, you got this little C piece right here that slides right over the fuel line like such, and then you just screw this guy down, make it nice and tight. Don't over tighten it because you'll break it, and then you'll have a 6AN coming out of your fuel tank. And don't be stupid like me and throw away your connector. Now I gotta go find a new connector. Alright guys, so the fuel lines are done. We've got them running all the way underneath the car, and we've got these little 1/2-inch tie downs going all the way underneath the car. I would show it to you, but I don't feel like going back under there. So the next thing we're doing is a little bit of cable management inside the car, making everything nice and pretty. So right now all my wires are basically coming from the front, and they're in a big bundle and they're going to the back. And I'm using this wire loom here to make everything nice and neat, and then we're going to secure it down. Alright guys, the wire loom is finished and it's secured along the trans tunnel. We got a few more things that we're going to be running up and down the trans tunnel before this project is over. But super happy with the way this is coming out. Cable management, folks, is very important. You got to have your cables neat and pretty. Otherwise, you're not going to know what's what. The only thing I don't like about this is that green cable right there, and just the distance it has to go. Either it goes across the footwell or it goes across the engine bay. And the decision I made is to send it across the footwell, but we can clean that up and make that look a little bit better. So speaking of cable management, I just want to take one more look at the engine bay right here, guys. As you can see, we don't have loose wires running everywhere. Got everything nice and neat and tidy, minimalist. I really like the shaved engine bay look, but it's just not practical in a lot of situations. But what I've achieved here is very close to the shaved engine bay look, and it's not going to change much from what you see right here actually, which is really cool. You do see these loose wires right here. Those are for my power steering. That's going to go in somewhere in that area there, and then I've got that bundle of wires back there. I think I'm going to need 1 or 2 wires off of that bundle. Those are like auxiliary wires for the Holly system that I have. So once I get that figured out, nothing else will really change up here. Also the brake lines, but yeah, so nice, neat, clean engine bay. Good for working on. Alright guys, we made a lot of progress on this video, but I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap this thing up. The car is not ready to run, like I said at the beginning of the video. Things are really just getting to the point now where it's a lot of small details and just a lot of piddly stuff, and then the more things you do, the more things you figure out you need to do. But we are getting closer to the end. So I went ahead and made myself a list, which is right here, of the things that need to get done in order to get the car completed. And I know that this list is going to grow a little bit more. I just took 5 minutes and just wrote down everything that I could think of. The things that have the tick marks next to them are the things that I need to do to actually get the car running. That's just engine running. And then the other things are things that I need to do to get this car to completion. So what I really want to do is get the car running. That way I can drive it in and out of the driveway into the garage where I can get a little bit more work done, because it's really annoying walking in and out of the garage and just being in the heat without my fans and stuff. Anyways, let's go ahead and take a look and see the last few details that I've got done on the car. Alright, so I've got my coil mounted. I had to fabricate myself a bracket to do that. I went ahead and wired my headlights. So we've got headlights, taillights, turn signals in there, and you can see what the control panel looks like. We've got our dashboard back in there. I didn't videotape my fabrication for the mount for this, but that was pretty cool. This is mounted directly to the steering column, so like I said, I can just pull the whole dashboard out and get to things that I need to work on. And the center console disconnects. So right here I've got my headlights and taillights, got my left turn signal, right turn signal. This is not going to be a street car, but for some things they want you to be able to have certain street car functions, and I may one day drive this car on the street for one reason or another, so I do want to at least be prepared to do that. Here's another look at the interior of the car. Got things looking real good in here so far, and I may not be pulling the dash out anymore. We'll see about that, but I've got the wiring real clean. As you could see before, that's my breaker panel. Right now everything is switched off just so I can do testing. The fuel pump is switched off, the ECU is switched off because I don't want to fire up the ECU. But we got power in here, folks. This is so cool. Oh yeah, I totally forgot to mention to you guys, I got my old valve covers back. These things are really special to me, guys. These were basically the centerpiece of my engine bay back when I had the 302 and the Drift Fox. These are actually the exact same ones. After I sold that motor, the guy who got it didn't actually like these valve covers, and it just took me forever to be able to get them back from him. But they're back, and I'm super excited to have them on this car. I really love looking at these things. The engine bay looks awesome. So, in the next video, I think we're going to tackle wiring relays for my water pump, relays for the fan, and I don't know what else. We're just going to pick items off of the list. If I try to do 1 or 2 items off of the list every day, I'll probably finish this car by the end of the month. I still think that's doubtful, but I do think that it's realistic that I will have this car done in the fall. So we'll see what happens. Doing my best over here, folks. You know, unfortunately, I just can't work on this thing with all of my hours, but I really do think that I can have this car shredding by the end of the year. So, oh yeah, check out my cool temperature radiator cap. Same thing I have on the Mustang. These things are really cool. So anyways, that's about it, folks. We'll catch you on the next one.